Well, the story of Joseph in the Old Testament. The lowly Jew who becomes sort of a hierarchy member of the Egyptian, government or what have you. And I sort of have doubts about that alone, because I would have thought that the Egyptians, like most royal families, are prejudiced, xenophobic, and what have you. So I don't know that they would have these open arms to some Jew.
I don't even know if you have to go so far as to find logical inconsistencies in these stories, because really, there's no telling how much of it is just completely made up, without any specific evidence for the stuff.
Right.
It seemed like a lot of Genesis is about sort of creating a genealogical map of the world, if you will, and it's a lot of it's made up, of course, and maybe all of it's made up. Right. But it was really sort of say these people are from this person. He was the patriarch of these folks, and Joseph did this, and these sorts of things, and pretty much the whole Genesis has this sort of flavor of, this is where this group of people came to be. This is their origin story, and how it all fits into a coherent whole. Right. And I don't have any reason to think that this Joseph story is any different, because it's just part and parcel of that. It's no different in many ways than the others.
Right.
Okay. Well.
All right. Well, thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, Ed.
Sure.
I apologize for thinking that was a joke.
Well,
it was a good question.
Could be. Yes. It was an interesting question.
Okay, now, if the studio is correct, this is also Ed in Austin coming up next.
Okay.
But I'm not sure if they recorded it accurately, but it sounds like it's a theist who would like to ask us why we don't believe in God. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Are you Ed?
I'm good.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Is your name Ed?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you got for us?
That's a coincidence.
Yeah, great coincidence. Anyways, I just want to start off by saying that you talk about how the Bible and everything within it, everything that goes in it, how really, to an extent, it has no scientific basis, right?
I wouldn't say everything, but
a lot of it.
It's a collection of stories. I mean, some of it may have some basis in truth. I mean, there may be places that existed. There may be people who existed. There are many places where we know it's false or it's self-contradictory. So, you have to take it all with a grain of salt.
Well, have you ever heard anything about the Quran?
Yes.
Yeah. I feel the same way about it.
Mm-hmm. There are many things in the Quran that seem to people have been talking about lately about how they actually scientifically add up. Like, they're not, in the sense that supposedly the Quran talks about Big Bang Theory, even though it was written years before.
This is an apologetic, an Islamic apologetic that's just as much BS as a lot of other stuff. So no, I don't buy it either.
Yeah. Well, what if it was that the fact that science was actually just the study of God's work, and that his work was so actually incomprehensible that you think you're disproving it, and really you're just studying what he created?
Well, I mean, if there was any reason to believe that there was a God, then obviously the science being the study of the universe would be the study of things that God has done in creating that stuff. But there isn't any reason to believe it. Unless you've got one.
The only reason I can find is that the order of the universe and everything that they study is almost too perfect to be a complete coincidence. Now, even though the universe was created over billions of years, since the time it was, from the Big Bang, from that point, the exact order of things is almost too perfect in the sense, why is it that, it hadn't collapsed yet and it continues to expand and, everything is almost in nearly perfect order?
Do you have something to comment on that?
No, I just recognize the argument, the whole entropy argument, but I am no expert. So
why would who's arguing that the universe is disordered and you can have order as an emergent property of the forces that exist in nature, like gravity and the strong nuclear force and weak nuclear force and so on. So you can have order from these things, and we have things like crystals are a great example of you have order emerging out of the fact that it's a lower potential energy for these crystals be created rather than the chaos that would otherwise be there. So I don't see that there needs to be a God for there to be order.
Right. Well, I mean, this is also referred to as the anthropic principle. I think one of the things that theists like to say is that there has to be a very special set of conditions in order for us to be here observing the universe and talking about it, because any other configuration and there would be nothing. Is that kind of along the lines of what you were talking about?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are a couple of issues with that. Number one is that, given any number of possible configurations that didn't lead to life, there aren't any people there saying that, oh, isn't it miraculous? So people talk about, isn't it amazing that here we are at this particular distance from the sun, where it's exactly warm enough for us to exist, and there's just enough oxygen for us to breathe. And then meanwhile, there are probably some nitrogen-breathing aliens somewhere on a gas giant, very, very close to the sun, in a distant galaxy, saying, "Isn't it amazing that our planet has to be in exactly the right configuration that is perfect for us to survive?" The thing is that matter does what does stuff with what it's given. Douglas Adams kind of made an analogy to a sentient puddle, saying, "Isn't it amazing that this hole in the ground is exactly the right shape for me to fit in?"
And another answer is if the universe was fine-tuned for life as we know it, do the calculation of just how much of the universe the life as we know it can live in. We live on a very, very thin layer of this very, 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 very small sphere in a very, very large solar system, in a very large galaxy, in a very large set of galaxies, and there are not very many places like that. And the idea that the universe was created just for this life is really pretty absurd when you look at how big the universe is.
Well, that's what brings back to the Quran, is that in the Quran, it is stated that God created other worlds as well.
Oh, so are you a Muslim? Just curious.
No, I just find it interesting. I just find their belief interesting.
The Quran was written quite a bit later than the rest of the Bible. It's only 1300
700 AD.
700 AD.
Right.
I guess they hadn't developed telescopes yet,
right.
But maybe they had a good guess.
Well, wait a minute. I mean, I'm not willing to accept that claim without hearing the exact hearing the exact wording, because that people who are apologists for particular religious texts will bend over backwards to go out of their way to take some very, very vague language and then pick on a particular point of science that sounds a little bit like it, and then say, "See, that's exactly, they exactly predicted that."
Well, even if it says that, it doesn't mean anything, because the Civil War really happened, but that doesn't make Gone with the Wind a work of fact.
Right.
So, even if it does say God created other worlds, that doesn't apply anything other than that statement. That could happen on pure chance.
Sure. And I was also going to mention
and also, Muslims were not idiots. I mean, the Muslim world developed quite a lot of science.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say too that we have the Mormon religion, which is more modern. Was created whole cloth, and it was created by somebody who was pretty fascinated by other worlds, right? Mm-hmm. And the notion of astronomy and these sorts of things, and so not surprisingly, these elements made it into the Mormon religion,